Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you for stopping by again. Today I want to talk about stages of watch collecting. What stage are you in right now in your watch collection? There's a lot of different stages in watch collection. You could start very enthusiastic and just thinking about the high name brands, thinking Rolex, Patek, Audemars, the Holy Trinity. You're going to achieve everything, and everything is going to be quick and easy. And then you stumble with Patek being overpriced. You stumble with Audemars one watch, which is the Royal Oak. So I've been collecting for a while now. Now don't get it wrong. I've been a watch dealer for a long time. Watch dealers are not watch collectors. A watch dealer usually will collect cards, or collect stamps, or collect baseball cards. A watch dealer will collect anything but watches. So I made the jump from watch dealer to watch collector, or a little bit of both, about 10 years ago, when YouTube started to get really big. When YouTube started to promote a lot of the romanticism of watches. That's when I started to hold back a little bit and say, you know what? I've held a lot of these watches in my hand and never stopped to appreciate them. I've never stopped and looked at the beauty of the watch. I stopped and looked at the profit of the watch, which is one thing, but I've never stopped and looked at the beauty, at the mechanics, at the aesthetics, at the watch. I always only looked at a profit margin. That was my only thing in mind. How much can I buy it for, and how much can I sell it for? So I would do a lot of high-end watches at the beginning, and then Rolex all of a sudden started to be very, very, very popular. And a wise man once told me, a very good friend of mine that passed away, he told me, Fernando, you know what? Whenever you buy a Rolex, don't think how much you can make, or what's the most you can make. Think what's the most you can lose. Because these watches are so popular nowadays, these watches are so hard to buy that you cannot make a profit in Rolex. So I started just creating, not a hatred, but I didn't like him as much. So I learned how to appreciate and get out of the Rolex slump. Because everybody would talk about Rolex, everybody would want a Rolex, and that's what I would try to buy. But when it's so popular, it's just impossible to buy. And as you guys know, you make your money when you buy a watch. You have to sell it, obviously, but anybody could sell a watch. Anybody selling, it's easy. Selling, it's the easiest thing in the world to sell. Buying, it's extremely hard. So, if you go into a car dealership, they have 30 salesmen out there. But when you take your car and trade it, they take it to one guy, the one buyer. So it's very hard to find a good buyer, because that's what business are made of. People who buy with the intention to sell, and then they know where the profit is as soon as they give you that offer. But I'll talk about the art of the deal in another video. But what stage are you guys in? I personally went from high-end watches to being a little bit of a watch snob, wearing a Rolex every day, wearing a Patek Calatrava, wearing high-end watches only. If I were to look at Seikos, I really would say, oh, that's a cool watch, but in the back of my mind I would say, oh my God, he's wearing garbage. Then I started reading into Seiko, and I'm just being totally honest here with you guys. Then I started reading into Seikos. Then I started learning about the heritage that Seiko has. And now the good part about all the stages that I've been through in watch collecting, vintage has been my strongest. I do wear modern watches. I'm wearing my Breitling Super Ocean Abyss, but I do wear modern watches, but I only wear modern watches when I really need to know what time it is. Because as we all know, vintage, you could get them accurate, but after a few days, they will be losing time. And you could tell me right now and leave me in the comments, oh, I have a vintage that loses a second a day. Yeah, for how long? Once you keep whining and once you keep going, that mainspring is that the mainspring, it's tired. The oils are old, and if you haven't serviced your vintage watch within the past year or 2 years, it's not going to keep perfect time. But that's the reality of vintage, and I love that reality. I love the reality of a watch that I know that was made with a chisel and a hammer, basically. Of a prehistoric watch, that it's not made with a CNC computer machine, that wasn't made, 1,000 pieces in 1 minute. I love the idea of my watch being made by these, by real hands, being a watch that was made, even though they were made in big quantities, and even though they still went through a line of manufacturing, but they were made with let's say a gear was made with a punch press. A punch press was it's a archaic machine that it would punch one thing at a time, and it would do, I don't know, 25, 30 gears a day. Not like the modern ones that you type it in your computer and you get a whole watch within a day, and that's the reality of things, guys. So that's why I like my vintage. So I've always been at that stage where I'm a vintage watch guy, but then I started collecting vintage higher end, and then I just stayed with the vintage, mid grade. I think vintage mid grade, it's the best way to park a collection, because you're not, well, they are expensive, but they're not house expensive. They're not car expensive. I mean, if you bought a chronograph Swiss for $1,000, that's your problem. If your intentions are to say, oh, they are expensive, I paid $1,000 for this chronograph. Well, guys, it's not worth $1,000. It's worth $100. You just paid $1,000. So that doesn't make it expensive. Expensive is a watch that is worth that kind of money, and the only way that you know that it's worth that kind of money, it's because it has a high collectible sense, and people are paying it like crazy, and you can't find it. That's another thing. If you think your watch is rare, and you have one, and another guy has one, they're not rare. A Rolex Submariner 16610, it's not a rare watch. It's an expensive watch. Sure, it's a popular watch, but it's not a rare watch. So it's just a watch that everybody wants right now. It's like having one of those LED 70s watches back in '82. Everybody wanted them, but did that make it a rare watch? No, they were expensive back then. A good LED Pulsar watch back then, the price tag was about $88 to $125. You could have gotten a really good watch for that kind of money. A Hoyer back then was only $80, $90. So tell me which one, 20 or 40 years down the line, which one got more popular and which one demanded the money. Just because it's popular right now doesn't mean it's going to hold that value and it's going to be that popular 20 years down the line. So right now we're living a very rare, and rare for me, for the old guy that I grew up in the business. Probably not rare for a lot of you guys because you're used to it. But with YouTube, with Instagram, with Facebook, it's a different era of collecting. And either me personally, either I get with it or I just go, sit on the sidelines and not get with it. So that's the reality of things. That's the reality of things with collecting. And I'm trying to get with it so much that I'm doing videos for you guys, so much that I'm talking with, I'm putting my face here on camera, talking with my friends here with you guys, and trying to understand the new era of collectors, trying to understand the new era of watches, and trying to understand which ones are going to be good and which ones are not going to be good. And I have a pretty good feeling about those. And if I start mentioning them, a lot of you guys are not going to be happy because they're extremely popular right now. But I'm going to say, if you have I'm just not going to say. I'm going to keep that to myself. But guys, tell me what you think. What part of watch collecting are you in right now? What's your stage of watch collecting? And what do you think that it's, where you're going to park your collection, where I'm going to say, I'm going to stick with this amount of money, and I'm going to stick with this era of watches, and I'm going to stick with, certain quantity of watches. What do you guys think about it? Let me know, and leave the comments down here below. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video. Appreciate it very much. Thank you so much.